when I turned 9, my bio mom got me a book from the bookstore about periods and coming into puberty for girls of my age range. It was informational. It suited my need for privacy, but my need for privacy wasn't the sort of generic, like middle schoolers and teenagers are embarrassed of their parents. It was more of a specific, this is really intimate, and I don't feel the closeness and safety in this relationship to share something so intimate.
Welcome back to the Experience of We. I'm Matthew.
I'm Naomi.
And we are back with another video in our series about living the fertility cycle together. In this video, we are going to be hearing Naomi's the earliest years of her personal journey in fertility. And so I'm going to give the framing that Naomi and I have come into the awareness that for many female-bodied people, the fertility cycle is an inseparable aspect of their day-to-day existence. And it's not an inconvenience to be dealt with or ignored. It's actually an active part of the life cycle of the human beings who experience the fertility cycle.
Yeah, and both directly and indirectly, both the ones who experience it directly through their own bodies and the human beings who are in relationship with them.
Exactly. And so if you could say that roughly 50% of the human population-ish experiences this fertility cycle, then actually 100% of the humans on Earth are living with the fertility cycle. Someone you know, someone, maybe your mother. We've all had a mother. And so this cycle is part of how human life perpetuates itself, how human life goes on. And so Naomi and I have started to live the cycle together. It obviously happens through her body, but I am a companion in it. And so we want to share a bit with you all what that's like. But first,
we want to share with you how we got to this point, because as Matthew said, we very much share the fertility cycle together. And he's a very active, involved part of this aspect of our life. And also, this particular fertility cycle journey began before Matthew. It began with me. And I suppose the way I look at it, it began with my mother, as it so often does. I remember growing up that my bio mom's periods were a part of life. They weren't hidden. They weren't actively shamed. It was more like, oh, I'm bleeding, I have my period, is how she'd say it. I have my period. Asking her husband to go get her a box of tampons from Walgreens.
that was probably somewhat progressive
Yeah.
for the time. Speaking as a male-bodied companion of female-bodied people who have a fertility cycle, many men of my generation and the generation prior to that felt insecurity about engaging with the artifacts, the products meant to assist you during the fertility cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a thing that's had a huge stigma around it for both men and women. And so, yeah, my parental figures were, in that respect, progressive. Like I said, my paternal figure was happy to get tampons from the store. Genuinely wanted to support in that way. And my birth mother would, like, if she went to the bathroom and didn't have one, she'd ask me to go get one for her or hand them to her if they were far away. At times, I saw her put them in. And so it was not hidden in or stigmatized in the normal way. And also, it was very logistical, very pragmatic. Like, hey, don't make a big deal about it. Women get periods, girls get periods. Let's get them their tampons, and there's nothing to be ashamed of here. And that, as Matthew was saying, was very progressive for the time. And also, it wasn't very personal or connected. One way of sort of the knowledge of how to orient to periods and how to logistically approach them. One way of seeing it is it's a lineage of knowledge or a lineage of wisdom being passed down from generation to generation. And there's a truth in that. And also my experience was more like it was an informational handbook being handed to me to read.
Yeah, and it even sounds like so it is a mess that happens once a month.
Yeah.
That we quietly clean up and don't make a big deal about.
Yeah.
Is what it sounds like.
That resonates.
And that the coolness, our coolness about
Is
it,
that we're not making a big deal out of
right?
it.
We don't make a big deal about it.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And so when I turned 9, my bio mom got me a book from the bookstore about periods and coming into puberty for girls of my age range. And she gave it to me to read. She didn't read it with me. I think she read it after me, but it wasn't like a shared activity. It was more like, here, go read this.
Here's a user guide to the system in your body that creates other human beings.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Here's a user guide. Here's a user guide. Here's what you might expect. And so,
Did you feel like you could approach her and ask questions about the book?
I'd say I felt like I could approach and ask questions. I think she did invite that about some of the more practical aspects of it, but nothing too complex. We didn't have that close of a relationship. Not that she wouldn't have tried to answer. I just wasn't comfortable because we lacked that closeness. And so, yeah, the book told me things like what a period biologically is, that there is a monthly cycle at all, what we might expect to feel in the days and weeks leading up to the period, how bodies change, that some grow curves of various sorts. It put an emphasis on the fact that all bodies change differently. It talked about how to get pregnant and how not to get pregnant. Important information. And it had a few pages of like a monthly period tracker you could fill out.
A couple of pages?
Yeah, maybe a few.
So you could track a couple months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even the first year, I don't quite remember. Yeah. But it was informational. It suited my need for privacy. But my need for privacy wasn't the sort of generic, like, middle schoolers and teenagers are embarrassed of their parents. It was more of a specific, this is really intimate, and I don't feel the closeness and safety in this relationship to share something so intimate.
So it felt intimate. Like, you probably didn't have the language, but you knew it felt a way that was intimate.
Yeah, it felt charged. I didn't have that language, but like, yeah, I felt a charge around it. It was like, no, I don't want to expose myself in this way.
So you would have needed to feel the level of intimacy that it felt like with the person you talked to about it. Otherwise, you wouldn't feel comfortable talking to them.
Yeah, totally.
So it requires a really intimate relationship to discuss it because of how it felt.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's accurate. Um, and uh, and so when uh, when the bleed finally arrived, well, actually a week beforehand, I want to mention that I got my first migraine a week before my first period. I didn't know that at the time, of course, but I proceeded to have migraines often throughout my life thereafter until Matthew and I had been together and been on a dedicated, devoted wellness journey for years. And I wanted to mention that because a lot of us deal with migraines and try to track the source. And so I just wanted to share my data. But getting back to the main thread, to the main bleed, it arrived when I was out and about with my parental figures in a public place. Luckily, it was a pretty quiet and clean feeling public place. We got some tampons afterwards. Went to Walgreens, got some tampons as a family.
If I can ask,
Yeah.
or I'd like to ask, so you were sitting down and just noticed, did you notice wetness? What was
Oh,
it like?
yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think I sort of noticed a little extra wetness earlier that night, but I didn't even really know what to feel for, so it didn't strike me. And then I think what did it was I pulled down my underwear to go to the bathroom and I
Mm.
saw a bloody streak.
Oh
Yeah.
man. What was it like? What was it? Were you shocked? Were you
Huh.
scared?
I was like, whoa, it's really happening. Like I was excited.
Oh,
I
so
was
it
excited.
was an exciting
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, it was like I'm coming of age. I
Mm.
something real is happening. And so much of my childhood, I'd felt like nothing real was happening. Like I couldn't tell if I was really moving forward. But it
Mm.
was this one sign of like, oh, I'm coming into my myself, coming into my womanhood,
Mm.
coming of age. Yeah, it
Mm.
was really exciting.
Mm.
But also like tamped down because again, I didn't feel the intimacy or safety to share it with anyone. Um, and so yeah, we got a box of tampons, a box of tampons and pads. I wore pads the first week until
Should we just say what tampons and pads are?
uh yeah, no, I suppose it's possible that you might not know. Yeah. Tampons are little sort of pill shaped, but like elongated pill shaped cotton balls, bundles of cotton, basically. Different ones are in different shapes when they get full, but yeah, they start out as like a long, narrow thing that's easy to fit in a small canal. And they often, though not always, come with an applicator that lets you sort of push them in rather than needing to put your hand all the way up. And they can be very helpful for athletic activity
Mm.
because the blood doesn't come out unless they're full. And pads are simply like a thick liner that goes at the bottom of your underwear or your pants that has several layers of absorbent cotton. Um, yeah, yeah, designed to shape into the way a crotch is on a woman's underwear.
Mm.
So those are tampons and pads. There are other ways of responding to bleeds. Um, I use a different way now, but I feel like that's a later video. So to stay on this one, I used pads for the first week, and then I was involved in ballet. I took ballet from the time I was 4 till I graduated high school, and I taught ballet for a while. And so ballet was a big part of my life, and dance in general. And so when my first ballet lesson rolled around, if you've ever seen a traditional ballet lesson, they are a pair of pink tights, especially if you have light skin like me, a pair of pink tights and a leotard cut like a bikini bottom, but like a bikini with good coverage in the back. And yeah, they're one piece and come up with all variety of different sleeves. And so yeah, this for me, for my uniform, this black basically bathing suit with light pink translucent tights. Made me feel very self-conscious during my first bleed. Like, what if something happened and I started bleeding and it started coming down my leg? Luckily, my mother talked to the ballet instructor and I got a special dispensation to wear some black bike shorts.
So you had permission to wear the bike shorts during your period,
Yes.
and other people did not do that?
I think it ended up being a thing, but like it wasn't announced ahead of time, which would have been really helpful.
So there wasn't like the school didn't have
A protocol.
a protocol for it. You just had to ask.
Yeah, not at that time anyhow. And that was embarrassing. I didn't want to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm having an intimate experience. Can I have your permission
Right.
to dress for it?
Yes, exactly. Oh gosh. Yeah, I really didn't like having to ask. Um, and so it was my first time using a tampon, and my bio mom showed me. I remember we were standing in the hallway. She took a tampon and she like used her fingers as labia, like the opening to the vagina. And she showed me like inserting it into the
I wonder if YouTube's
yeah.
going to ban this.
Yeah, right. Man, this is pretty graphic stuff. So yeah, inserting it and using the applicator and taking out the applicator and leaving in the cotton.
What's the applicator?
The applicator is a long plastic thing. Part of it covers the cotton to, if you put in cotton without a cardboard or plastic applicator, it can be a bumpy ride because it has a lot of friction. And so the plastic or cardboard makes it smoother. Though some people do just use some tampons don't have applicators. Mine did. Makes the ride smoother inside.
Man, this is complicated. I have questions, but I think I'm gonna let you get through your story.
I love your questions. It feels so good to have an involved and curious and attentive man in this with me. So I was pretty nervous to put something up there. And she offered to like watch me or let me see her do it. And I was like, no, 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 no. But I did ask her to play a computer game in my room facing the wall while I was in a place she couldn't see in the bedroom on my bed, putting it in. And so she did that. And I thought I did it. It was a little uncomfortable. I went to ballet, and I got a little bit through ballet, and man, it wasn't feeling good, and it kept coming out. And so eventually, I said I needed a bathroom break, and went downstairs and just took it out. It turned out um, the applicator's in two parts: the pusher stick that gets it high up in there, and then the actual thing covering the plastic. And I'd taken out the pusher stick, but left the thing covering the cotton inside of me. And so it wasn't absorbing and it was coming out because it was too big.
Man, I have to tell you, so I didn't do this until our relationship. I've had previous partners. I have a previous marriage. But I had never held a tampon in my hand that was not in a package to be torn open until our relationship. And so one time, as we were sort of going through this process, I pulled one out of a box and opened it and realized I didn't know how to use it. Not that I was going to put it myself, but like I couldn't even like test it. I wasn't sure what to do. It took me, I think, a couple.
Yeah, we went through a couple.
Yeah, I ruined the first one that I tried to use, and then the second time you gave me instruction on how to open it. So it's not necessarily easy if you don't know what you're doing. And especially, I wasn't putting it in my body. I just had it up near my face so I could inspect it really closely.
Yeah. I remember at some point thereafter, like looking with a hand mirror to see what all was going on down there. It was recommended in the period book that I was given. So I think I needed to sit out the rest of ballet that day, but eventually talked it through with my bio mom, figured out what happened, and began a journey of tampon use for a number of years. I mostly tampon use, occasionally pad. occasionally my tampon would get overly full, and then I'd either like bleed onto my clothes and tie a sweatshirt around my waist. Again, recommended by the period book. Good book.
That book really helped you out.
It did.
I didn't have a book
No,
for my equipment.
no.
Yeah. Well, that will be another video series.
Yes. Um, one time I used a sock. I like was bleeding over, and so I took off one of my socks and used that as a pad. Some often wadded up toilet paper, but yeah, the sock also was a recommendation from the period book.
Man, that book.
Yeah, good tips.
That book, yeah,
Yeah.
helped you out.
Uh, uh, I didn't really notice the fluctuations, the more subtle fluctuations in my cycle at that point. It was more just like, oh, and sometimes I bleed. I could usually tell when it was coming a day or two in advance because I'd get really bad lower back pain. And my bio mom would sometimes offer to rub my back, which was really sweet. She unfortunately didn't have much physical strength, and so it was more like a skin rub than a pain relieving massage. But it meant a lot to me that she cared too.
Yeah, yeah. It's I now do the lower back rubbing,
Yeah.
and it takes some strength. You got to get in there. You got to really
Yeah.
apply a lot of pressure to relieve the discomfort when it comes up.
Yes. And by the way, having lower back pain around the bleed is a well-known side effect. Something about the hormones that are secreted to make that happen. But I don't remember the specifics, and this is more of a narrative arc. So, uh,
Is this challenging at all to talk about?
mostly not.
Because I felt like you had a little moment of anxiety there, or did I misread that?
I think in general, when we're talking to you, I want to, if I could, I'd have like every exact scientific name of everything and every reference, but I don't keep that kind of data in my mind. So it's more a specific moment of self-consciousness than a general one.
Gotcha.
Appreciate you checking.
Yep.
So I pragmatically continued on my way.
Pragmatically, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Through the journey of the fertility cycle, which again, to me at that point was just like once a month, things get messy. My back hurts. I need to have tampons on hand. And then I started, when I was 17, I started getting to the point in my sexual activity where I was doing things that could have the possibility of getting me pregnant. And I thought I needed some birth control. And so I was able to make an appointment for birth control. This is a privilege that I deeply value. I was able to make an appointment to get birth control. And my bio mom went with me. She stayed in the lobby. She would have come in with me to the appointment if I'd wanted her to, but I didn't. But yeah, I was able to schedule an appointment with a doctor to talk about birth control.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It, I mean, birth control probably saved my life in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But you go in and you talk to a human being
Yeah.
and you say that you need help stopping accidental pregnancies from happening, and they probably ask you questions
Yeah.
about the kind of sexual activity you're having and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. About how many partners and what kind of protection is being used and things like that. STDs. And then the doctor offered me my options for birth control. On the one hand, there was the pill, which it seemed like I needed a relatively high degree of discipline to make effective, and I did not have access to that kind of discipline at that time.
Yeah, my understanding is that there are pills for every day of the month, including like placebos or something for the
Yeah.
the bleed, the period.
Yeah.
And that you have to maintain compliance with every day of the pills Otherwise, if you get off track, it could make it not work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so I both didn't want the overhead and didn't feel I had the discipline. Then
Just to name it, I have had partners in the past who used the birth control pill and really, really struggled to maintain perfect compliance. And I know that that's a real challenge that some people have.
yeah, no, that challenge is so real. I haven't even taken it on. Because there were other options like the copper IUD. And at the time it was like, so you can have this IUD.
What's an IUD?
An IUD is, wow, I feel like I wish I'd done my research ahead of this. It's a T-shaped device that sits in my uterus and defends from unwanted pregnancy. And how it does that depends on the type. The copper one defends chemically
Chemically?
through being copper, like being copper itself.
So the copper itself has a property that prevents pregnancy.
Correct. I wish I researched it beforehand, and I am noticing self-consciousness right
Oh,
now.
this is still the story time. You
Yeah.
don't need that.
Cool.
But I'll keep asking questions.
All right. So that was one option, and it came with heavier bleeds and cramping. So that didn't sound very good. And then there was the Mirena IUD, which was known to significantly reduce period frequency, if not stop it altogether. And that was a pretty appealing idea to me, not just because it felt messy and inconvenient, but because I was coming into sexual activity, and I did not know how the men I was involved with were going to feel about me having a bleed. I remember at the time it was like either he's going to care, which means he might not want to have sex with me or even see me during that time.
Oof.
Or the good thing would be if he doesn't care, he's cool about it. And
I just want to reflect a few things. So you're choosing between birth controls, and there's a pill that you have to maintain continuous compliance with, and you will get your normal period.
yep,
There is a copper IUD, which will does not require monthly pill taking, but it does cause potentially more painful, more intense, and like bloody periods. And then there's one that eliminates or mostly eliminates your periods,
right, altogether.
and it seems like it's cost free.
Yeah, yeah.
No cost to taking it.
Yeah, so to be clear, the Mirena IUD does not eliminate periods for everyone, but that there is a possibility of that and at least reduced frequency. And so, yeah, it was like, take the one where I have to be super compliant and there's a huge overhead. No. Take the one where it hurts more and I bleed more. No. Take the one where I just get to not have a period. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds way better.
It does. It does.
And so I went with that option. And
And that was partly inspired by not wanting to have the menstrual cycle interfere in your social, sexual relationships
Yeah.
with partners.
yeah, definitely. Definitely not feeling safe in my menstrual cycle with partners was a big part of it. And so I pushed a pause button on my bleeds, and on a large part of my cycle. And that is a story of its own that I feel like might make a great next episode in the series. For now, I'll end it here at this place of unknowing of the primordial power that I was reckoning with.
Yeah, and so what I sort of take from the story is you have this first coming of age, which is I have now my reproductive capacity has been activated, and that was a coming of age when you were 11. And then you reach early adulthood and have a new coming of age, which is I'm going to chemically regulate my menstrual cycle and birthing capacity out of my life.
Yeah,
I'm going to
this
turn them
doesn't
off.
need to be a part of my life anymore. I can just turn it off. Why wouldn't I?
Right.
Why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't you just turn it off?
Yeah, exactly.
When it's mostly an inconvenience. If you don't want to have children, it's mostly an
It's mostly an
inconvenience, is
inconvenience.
how it felt.
And as we share this, I just want to say, and I'll get into this in the next video, but we are not saying that Mirena IUDs are bad, or that decision about how to manage our life creative capacity is bad. We're saying that it is more complex than it may appear on the surface. And so that is a subject for the next video. And for now, I think I'm going to close. I want to say I really appreciate you sharing your time and your energy with us to talk about the fertility cycle in general and my fertility cycle in particular. Matthew and I have a lot of learning that we've gained through going on this journey of learning about this and being this together, being in the fertility cycle together. And so we want to be able to share that what we've learned and the directions we're going. And also, in order for it really to make sense, we need to be able to share our own stories of it. And on a sort of more personal note, you're sharing my fertility cycle story with me in long form. That is amazing. So few women ever get an opportunity like this. And so I feel honored and I feel grateful to you, Matthew, for drawing me out in conversation and storytelling, as always, and to you for joining us and joining me in sharing my journey of the fertility cycle with you, which I suppose is another rite of adulthood passage for me.
Yeah.
We will talk to you next time.
Bye for now.